up, guys? So this is just gonna be a quick little review video slash like FAQ thing. So I've had the Corsa Xtreme system on my car now for just about 5,000 miles. Like, I know that when I was trying to decide on an exhaust system for my car, the Corsas immediately jumped out at me as one that I wanted, but I had some reservations about it, and I couldn't really find anywhere online where people were addressing the specific questions like that I had about it. So not that anybody knows who the fuck I am or really watches my videos, but I just figured maybe somebody might happen to stumble upon this who is thinking about getting the system but has some of the similar concerns that I did, and try to address them. I mean, first of all, I fucking love this exhaust. Like, from the moment I put it on, I knew it was exactly what I wanted it to be. The sound that this system makes is like, it's just not like anything else I've heard, man. It's nice. It's got a real nice deep rumble down in the lower RPMs, and up top it just absolutely fucking screams. But it just doesn't sound like any other exhaust that anybody is making for the S550. And I think the reason for that is because so many of these other exhausts, like Borla, Flowmaster, you know, all the like MagnaFlow, all that shit that people get, they try to keep the tone of the car like super low, like the old you know, like the old kind of like pushrod V8 sound that like the old Mustangs used to have. And as you go through the RPM band, to me, it doesn't stay sounding good. It starts to sound like repressed or like suppressed, I guess would be the word. It sounds like it should be making a much higher tone than it does, but it's just not. And the Corsas, they don't do that. Like, it's a much higher pitched sound, you know, than a lot of the other ones. And a lot of people, that's not in their mind what they are going for. They're like, oh, what's like the deepest, lowest exhaust that there is? And it's like, well, it's definitely not the Corsa Xtreme. The way that the Coyote engine sounds now in the S550s, like, this exhaust is just the perfect like match for that. With all that being said though, I know when I was looking at exhausts, I immediately was drawn to the Corsa Xtreme, like from the YouTube videos that I would watch and stuff. It always stood out to me as the best sounding system, but I had reservations about actually going through with it and getting it. Number one concern about this system that people seem to have is like, is it too loud? That was the question that I had. Like, I wanted to know if it would be, I mean, I daily drive this car. You know, this isn't just like a weekend car for me. I take it to work, like, I take it through my neighborhood every day. So I needed to know, is it gonna be too loud for me? Like, the problem that I always found is when I would go and I would see reviews on like YouTube and American Muscle and shit, you know, half of the reviews would be like, oh yeah, it's great, it's like loud when you want it to be, it's quiet when you don't. And then the other half would be like, this exhaust system, you know, scares women and children, and it'll wake up the dead and all this shit. And it's like, I couldn't tell from like reading the reviews and stuff what to actually think about it. Like they weren't really helpful in me trying to decide if it was going to be too loud or not. So here is my assessment of it after having the exhaust for about 5,000 miles on my car, daily driving, you know, wide open throttle, highway use. I've really gone through pretty much any kind of driving that you would ever do, I've done with this exhaust system, and here is my assessment. It's not gonna be the right system for everybody. There are definitely like living situations or travel situations that you might be in that this exhaust, it will be too loud. If you live in an apartment complex where, you know, you're parking your car right next to like your neighbor's bedroom, I wouldn't do it, man. Like the cold start on this thing is loud as fuck. Like, it is ridiculously loud starts in this car, they're not bothering my neighbors. Like, I'm not right on top of anybody. I have been in my house and I've had my dad go and cold start the car, you know, while I was in the house, so I could get a feel for like how loud it is. And it's not the sort of thing that would ever have, like, it wouldn't like wake me up if I was asleep. But if I were living where I was parking my car in a space that was like 3 feet outside my neighbor's bedroom, you know, and especially if they had like kids or something, it would be too loud, man. Like that, it definitely could wake somebody up in a situation like that. It is loud as shit in a lot of situations. Like I just said, the cold starts, loud as hell. Wide open throttle, deafeningly loud, like just absolutely screaming. But the volume of this exhaust depends on your throttle input. With the exception of the cold start, it depends pretty much entirely on your throttle input. And if you're taking it easy, if you're keeping it down in the lower RPM range, you know, if you're just cruising along very moderately, it's not that loud. Like you can absolutely keep it at a very reasonable volume. Like, you know, when I have work early in the morning, or when I don't get off until like super late at night and I'm trying to get through my neighborhood and not be an asshole and wake everybody up, I can easily do it. It's very aggressive. Here, I'll get another one. See, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, that was loud as shit. I don't know how well it's going to translate on the video, but that was loud as fuck. But, you know, I'm going to just creep through this light. Not bad at all. I mean, you can hear it. You know, don't get me wrong. Like, you can definitely tell it's there. It's absolutely not too loud for a daily driver, though. Like, I daily drive this car. In no way is it too loud for me. Like, I have no regrets about getting this exhaust. I never think, like, man, I wish this wasn't so loud when I'm driving it. Don't be discouraged about getting it just because you daily drive the car. Speed bump. Boop. Fuck, dude. Oh, here's another thing. I see a lot of people asking about, like, problems with police officers with this exhaust. Depends on your area. Like, this is definitely loud enough that people are gonna notice it, you know, including cops. Like, it'll depend entirely on, like, the kind of area that you're in. Like, I live in Eastern North Carolina, where, you know, half the population of this city has a fucking, you know, giant lifted truck with one of those, like, fucking horrible clattering, soul-wrenchingly loud exhausts. And so, like, the cops in my area just don't give a shit about stuff like that. Like, they're not bothered by loud cars. You know, if noise complaints are something that people actually get in your area, then this exhaust could absolutely warrant, you know, getting pulled over. Like, people are gonna hear you coming without a doubt. And I mean, this should seem really obvious, but like, if you get this system, you're gonna hear it a lot. Like, it's loud inside the car, even with the windows up. Like, right now, you know, that's with windows up. I got a little AC going. I mean, you can definitely hear it. It's not to the point where you can't, like, hold a conversation or listen to music. You absolutely can. And, you know, I mean, oh, and by the way, there's zero drone with this exhaust. Like, on the highway, 6th gear, absolutely nothing. You can't even tell it's there. You know, if you put this car in a low RPM and you're just cruising at a fixed speed, you forget that you even have an aftermarket system. Like, it's very subdued. You absolutely, especially if you just have, like, the windows up and you're not constantly blasting it, it's very easy to, you know, hold a conversation, listen to music, do it. Like, that's no problem with this system. So yeah, I mean, point being, just like, you've got to be reasonable and honest about, you know, about the situation that you're in, and about whether or not it's a good idea to have an exhaust called the Corsa Xtremes, you know, that is widely known as being like one of the loudest and most aggressive catbacks you can buy for this car. I think if you just exercise good common sense about it and honestly assess, you know, the kind of situation that you're in, you can decide whether or not it's the right system for you. If there's no risk of you ruining anybody else's day all the time, or of you not wanting a super loud system, then my advice would be absolutely go for it. I fucking love this exhaust. I've loved it from the second I put it on my car. I plan on keeping it for a long, long time. So yeah. You know, any questions, of course, just ask, but otherwise, I hope this helps somebody at some point, and yeah.